It has been a fairly difficult week. So I want to talk about a difficult concept and construct from the perspective of being powerful and still requiring protection. When I started putting all of the YouTube videos up, one of my first feelings of anxiety was I am now putting myself in the public space. And in my mind's eye, I saw a wonderful practitioner by the name of Sharon, who used to work in the center when I first opened it 16 years ago, saying to me, don't get your picture taken because you never know what people use it for. And if it's in the newspaper, very often you never know what people use their old newspapers for. And your energy, as it is captured in that photograph, then gets abused. And I wound up having an entire discussion with her about this because my belief system was, don't be ridiculous, it's a newspaper. It's not who you are. It's not your energy. And I really do not want to live my mind in this fear-based, negative thinking, small-minded way. And I haven't. I moved on from there. And a couple of years later, and it was 2 years later, after we moved into Clark Road, I had good reason to write a newsletter for my ever-changing times called The Garden of Good and Evil. And from that experience, I learned all about spiritual binding, which is a way of tying up someone's soul connectedness and sacred contract with themselves in such a way that they cannot progress, they cannot fulfill themselves. If you want a copy of that, I'm happy to send it to you so that you can read the article for yourself. And over the years, I have had reason to look at clients to check if there was some kind of spiritual binding on their soul cells, to check how can we move past it, how can we have it cleansed, how can we outgrow these evil practices that exist in our communities. And Rama reminded me today that one of the things I've said in a meditation group is that the best possible way to respond to this kind of evil practice is to send compassionate healing energy to whoever has placed this binding on you. More recently, Shahina started a conversation with me about a Muslim concept called Nazar, where people put their eye on you, and from putting their eye on you with envy or with negative intention, actually deplete your energy. We've had a discussion recently about being soul weary and fatigued. And then about a week ago, when I was working on these YouTube meditations and sorting out transcripts, I was intuitively guided into working with the crown chakra meditation and the chat in which I was talking about how I wound up with this burning, consuming pain in my head because I was so oblivious to my connectedness to everything. For me to now have a repeat of that experience is a little ludicrous to my mind, but this entire week has been a week of re-experiencing two very specific experiences, and I see why they have come back. I understand why they have come back. Right next to the chakra frequency meditation, I started working on something called the zeal chakra. Now, the zeal chakra meditation is on YouTube, so please go and look it up. But in that meditation, I'm talking about how this chakra, in the dip at the back of your neck, so you can all just lift up your hands and go to that dip where it actually dents. And you'll feel that there are 2 points like hinges that hold your skull connected to your neck. That's where your zeal chakra lives. Now, we've talked about how this zeal chakra is actually the chakra that holds all of the traumatic events from your past, whether it's past lives or traumatic events from this lifetime past, and it keeps it there, available, in connectedness to your third eye and in connectedness to your psoas muscle in your hips, so that you may do what we call review or repetitive learning. The purpose of trauma is for us to learn from it, for us to learn forgiveness, for us to learn awareness and mindfulness, for us to learn compassion. That's what pain is for. That's what challenge is for. So this chakra that is holding all of this information regularly sends it out in such a way that you can't ignore it. You actually have to deal with it. But for those of us who are blithely going on with our lives and getting busy and making things happen elsewhere, we forget, me included, to pay attention to what's going on. So here I am with the chakra frequencies and how my crown chakra holds all of the information from base to third eye within its 1008 petals, and how other people's energy systems, particularly from base and sacral and solar plexus, are resonating with my own human chakras in the crown, and it becomes a receptacle or receptive chakra to what's happening in the human consciousness. If I am not protective of the energy of my crown chakra, I become open to being exploited or abused energetically in the world. In other words, I start to resonate with other people's dramas and issues as an intuitive or as a sensitive being, and I take it on, or I feed my energy into it in a normal, innate, compassionate way that then just leaves me drained because I am doing it unaware. It's not conscious, it's not intentional. I am not receiving in order to give. I'm just giving. Which, we can't do, right? Spiritual law says you can't give what you don't have. So I'm not being a channel in that moment. I'm just being drained of whatever vitality I do have. So that's the one. Then there's the zeal chakra that holds all of this traumatic information. And of course, while I was working with that, my father kept insisting that I must work with what he calls his meditation, and I packed up laughing when I looked at it, because it's Yabba276 that I channeled on the 30th of March 2017. And in this meditation, which is called Brain Denial, here I am having an entire chat about how the physical body acquires information and holds it and knows it and accumulates pain with it, while the brain is completely in denial about what's going on. While the brain is too busy with what it thinks it knows to pay attention to what the body is actually saying. And of course, the body is closely associated with the chakras. In this chat, I'm talking about how our organs, how our physical structure, even our skeletal structure is holding information and bringing our attention to it from pain. But of course, the brain is in denial. The brain is not looking at the emotional impact. The brain is not looking at all of the events that we have accumulated and we are now skimming past because we can cope with it and we can survive. And as Charmaine would say, it's tough. And then I would say, yes, we're tough. We're tough as nails. We cope with things. We survive things. But the body knows. And if you throw all of that together, what you've got is an energy system that becomes more depleted and therefore more vulnerable to other people's, and please pardon the expression, fucking bullshit. There's no other way that I can emphasize this sufficiently. I get angry. I get so angry when I think about some person sitting somewhere and literally binding cotton, ordinary sewing cotton, an instrument that we use for healing and creativity, an instrument that we use for repairing, for making something whole. Cotton is bound around any personal item belonging to the recipient of their negative energy and used with negative or evil intention to bind a spirit, to mummify that spirit so it cannot become itself. This week I've had all of this at once. So during this week I had the wonderful experience of working with a new client, and I got so excited about this beautiful new energy and its great potential, and it's going to be so wonderfully challenging for me. So I got all excited and I got present, and immediately I tuned into the energy. As usual, I could see this dark energy standing there to the side. But it wasn't interfering with me, and I figured, okay, it was manageable. I could get on with my work. But as the work happened and as it unfolded, and my client began to get more and more in tune with her own authentic power, that dark energy started to pulsate until I was choking, and eventually, with much help from guides on all sides, finished the session and discovered that my entire physical body was in excruciating pain. And the reason I'm giving you all of this information in this step-by-step form is because I want you to see how we can't always just know things. Just know things. You know, like a yes or no, or it just happens and you get the information directly. That this mindfulness, this awareness is necessary in conjunction with the inspiration or the guidance you're receiving, so that you can see and experience the synchronicity of the universe working on your behalf. By the time I got to like 10 o'clock last night, I was feeling washed out, in excruciating pain. My zeal chakra was pulsating the whole way through my body, the burning, consuming pain on the right side of my head. And in the midst of this, my client was saying she could see this dark energy standing next to her. So now I responded saying, yes, I know, and not to worry. It's there, fighting for dominion and ownership of your soul. But you all know what my Lord Husband says. What is mine is mine. And here's the thing. In religion, we hear the stories about how God and the devil fight for dominion of a soul. And in the esoteric world, we might be inclined to dismiss these religious stories. But here I was, fighting for dominion of that particular soul. And not even dominion, but liberation of that particular soul from that particular darkness. Because no soul, no matter how vulnerable it is, deserves to be bound in that way. And we become bound in that way, one, because we are unmindful and overly trusting of people. In our ignorance, we are overly trusting. And in our fear, we become overly vulnerable. Truth is its own power. Knowledge is its own power. And what we know does in fact serve to protect us. I got to a stage last night where I was lying paralyzed on my bed, just pushing back at this energy with my light and just standing my ground and getting bigger and bigger and bigger like a bouncer in a discotheque. You know, until it felt like all of my muscles were bulging, because my light had to get bigger and bigger and bigger in order to dispel the darkness. And it wasn't the darkness so much as the evil intention that had to be dispelled. In the midst of all of this, I did a reading for a girl who lives overseas, young lady, who is surrounded by people who are engaging in very strange esoteric practices, again, based on videos that they're watching on YouTube. They're dabbling with black magic. They are medical students who purchased the real human skeleton of an Indian woman so that they may study medical science better. That they manufacture plastic skeletons that can hang neatly in a cupboard has never occurred to them. So they bought the real skeleton of a dead Indian woman who is seriously affronted that they have disturbed her eternal rest, and has taken to reclaiming her physical body in their space. Now for spirit, this is just disrespectful. When the physical body dies and the soul disposes of it, it is disposed of. It is waste. It is not to be resurrected for any other reason. And we know our medical schools do this, that they use actual human bodies for study purposes, and we step back from it. Sometimes souls give permission. They go, I don't care about that body, have it. We're so detached from it. But there are souls who are still attached to their bodies and find it disrespectful. An old woman from India finds it completely disrespectful because her tradition, her religion says that her body is supposed to be cremated. It is supposed to be returned to the earth. It is not supposed to be left hanging around in somebody's cupboard. So it's been a harsh week of all of these energetic experiences of the need for protection. And the need for protection, not just on an individual level, but the need for protection in the mass consciousness. Because this is how evil thrives in our world, and there's no denying that there are evil people in the world. Really, there's just no denying that there are evil people in the world. We have to look at the world and see it clearly, and we have to know it's our world, and what evil thrives there is in our mass consciousness. And I said in that chakra frequencies meditation, the crown chakra frequencies meditation, my lesson then was that no matter how oblivious or unmindful or detached or disconnected I think I am from everything that's going on around me, I am still irrevocably connected to it. There is no separation. There are huge benefits to the knowing that there is no separation between God and I. Just give me a second. That was not funny. Okay. I will mention it. Okay. So on an aside here, I'm being reminded by my Native American guide, but we were there all along. All the time this was happening, they were there all along. And I don't find that in the least bit funny at this stage, because I felt like I was struggling alone at the time. And I had the awareness that they were there, but they weren't doing anything. So, just to not distort the chat, be aware that they were there all along. But, okay, I'm not having this argument with you now. Let's move on, because I got a bit pissed about that. No, I got pissed off. I mean, what is the point of having guides if I'm having to raise my vibration and fight by myself? And as usual, the answer came in the question. When I fight by myself, I know that I can. And I did. And I feel fabulous. Sore, but fabulous. So in the midst of all of this, when I'm talking about this irrevocable connectedness to the mass consciousness, and how evil thrives in it, and how our mindfulness as individuals actually can push that back, I am reminded of a cliche that when you shine your light brightly in the universe, there is the dynamic of moths to a flame. And in this cliche, moths represents all of those unconscionable beings who will be attracted to the light but not know what to do with it. And when the moth flies too close to the flame, it will burn its wings. It will leave complaining that the flame burnt its wings. It will not recognize that it flew too close. Just let that one sink in, because the flame is doing nothing other than burning as brightly as it can. It is the moth that is in flow, that is in flight, that is unmindful within itself and gets its wings burnt. The flame has no awareness of the existence of the moth. The flame is undeterred by the moth. And much as I would like to come up with the reasonable way of dealing with all of the evil in the world, picking up the Lord Husband's trident and striking them all dead and zapping them over to the other side like mosquitoes, that they may return in their next life revitalized with good intentions, we know reasonably that we can't do that. That this unreasonable, unconscionable consciousness is required for our evolution and is part of the game that we're playing in being human. What we can do is be bright enough lights that are completely undeterred and detached and even unaware of the moths that fly too close, that swoop in order to get something out of the light. We can do that. We can be mindful of creating protection and invoking protection on self and for the highest good of all parties concerned wherever we are. We can invoke protection for the earth and the animals on it and all of the other souls on it, even as we know that those souls are connected to unconscionable human doings. We can recognize that there is no such thing as Satan or the devil as prescribed by religion. There is only the shadow side of reasonable men acting on this massive, powerful gift called free will, and we can deter it with our own intention and free will. Your zeal chakra will require management, because your zeal chakra holds all of the information of previous traumas that were created by the evil of others, traumas that are created and pain that is created, wounding that is created out of the misuse and the abuse of power, of authority. So here I am with the crown chakra in tornado effect, the zeal chakra pulsating the whole way through, burning headaches, tension headaches, back in a spasm, every possible traumatic experience that my physical body knows from past lives and in this lifetime, I can give you an alphabetical or chronological list if you like, came to the fore. One of the most impressionable of those was being assaulted at a mosque about 14 or 15 years ago by a group of Muslim men who were so angry about the American invasion of Iran. They'd had a fiery sermon. My car was parked in the middle, And my body was so absent from this assault that I didn't even know that I was being hit in the back until 2 days later I was in Japi's car and my back was black and blue. And I could feel the pain of it then. And I can feel the pain of it now. And we're not going to blame the religion. Really, religion doesn't teach people to be violent. The way we interpret those religions, the way we interpret our faith, the way we take the supposed word of God and use it here, that's our reasoning minds, and we must individually be responsible for that. The way we take the word of God and twist it around for our convenience is something we must take responsibility for. There is an evil in the minds of mankind that we must take responsibility for. Each and every one of us has a shadow side. And it is our conscience, our inner boundary that says, I won't do that. I can't do that. That's not who I am. But when conscience becomes a matter of convenience, we wind up with this really ugly word called compromise. And so we have to learn to be committed, uncompromising, consistent in our truth. When I see for myself why I am having this experience again, because I am so incredibly well protected, really. I am so in awe of the protection that I am given automatically. Thousands of people pass through me, and they pass through the center. And for me to have one experience after 16 years of this nature, and all of it in 1 week, means there is something for me to learn. And what I'm learning is that part of the act of service is to bring greater and greater vibrations of energetic protection to the world. If I want to protect the rhinos and the whales, I must do it from here. I mustn't just do the healing, I must do the protection. And I must do the bubbling. I must recognize that each and every one of us in this network is a channel of protective and healing energy for everything that is in creation. That I can't just say, don't mess with my dog. I must say, don't mess with my whales. Don't mess with my students. It's all mine. Isn't that what we said recently? It is all mine. And if all of us start saying this, it is all mine, we will be living the African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. It does require all of us. And then, of course, for me, it is an opportunity to move into a whole new level of forgiveness. A whole new level of letting go of what is sitting in my body, inhibiting and limiting my capacity to speak the word of God as it is given by God, as it is given by the highest vibrations of my teachers. Shirdi Baba laughs when I ask, so why do I need to do these things? Because he always says, why not? Whenever I say, why do I have to do these things? He says, why not? And he always has a giggle at me, because I should know by now that there isn't one physical plane experience that I am having that isn't for my own teaching. And because I have no physical plane teachers other than all that is on the physical plane, then I must learn from the experience, which is exactly the philosophy of all of the soul coaching that happens in the center. It's the way we teach. Meditation, we create an experience. There is no greater teacher than your own experience. So he laughs at me and he says, why not? And he laughs at me because even that, which I, in my human doing and in my human thinking and feeling, get angry about and judge as being evil, even that is treated equally by God. We, in our thinking, want to think that God will punish the evil, and we set up the system of karma as a system of punishment. But that's just for our comfort zone, because there is no punishing God. There is no God that judges, or there's just like no God who does that stupid human ego game. So it's up to us here on the mass consciousness level to start shifting things along so that we can all experience God fully. And when it came down to it, it came down to one simple thing. It was such a simple thing. We've done this so often in meditation here that I can't believe I'm coming back to exactly the same thing over and over and over again. You remember we did a meditation about being a lighthouse? And that light being so bright that it deters ships from bashing themselves onto rocks. We've done this meditation where you create your light and you actually illuminate the world more and more and more, brighter and brighter and brighter, until it is so bright that we cannot see your physical body anymore. Remember? I'm sure we've done this one. Yeah, we've done it from various chakras. We've done it using the third eye. We've done it using the crown. We've done this meditation so often that all of us should automatically come to meditation at a higher vibration. The problem with human consciousness is that just when you get your light to a particular vibration in the light, somebody on the evil side raises their vibration too. And because there is so much real anxiety and fear in the world, because there is so much bloodshed in the world, the negative vibrations are always present to feed on that. Because there are so many stupid people doing stupid things in the world, there are more negative vibrations to feed on that. It's tiresome. It's tedious. And I do wish people would stop and get intentional about how they are making decisions for entire nations. But until they do, we have to manage our individual universes in harmony with each other's universes in order to shift this unconscionable, unreasonable power game to a new level. And in doing so, we must acknowledge that we don't always heal for things to stay as we know them. And we don't always heal for things to change in a continuity of as we know them. That sometimes we work at healing things so that they change so dramatically, so drastically, it feels that they've died and become something else. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Shall we meditate? Thank you. Let us meditate.